Vyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paschachari.
Krishna Chaitanya.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Shishade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Everybody chanting these at home while we chant them here.
Can Janak say the second one? Ishavashyam.
Okay. Go ahead.
Ishavashyam sarvam.
Ishavashyam idam sarvam yatkinchit jagatam jagat tena taktena vunvitam magra kashyasvidvanam.
Purvanevaha karmani jijiva shechchatam samaha evam tvai nanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare asuryanamate loka andina tamasavrita tamste preja bigajanti yeke chatma hanojanaha anijarikam manaso javiyo naina devapnavam purvam arshat Tadhavitonyan achiteti tistat tasminapo matarishva dadati tarejati tanayjati tadure tadbandike tarantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya shabhayataha. Mantra 6. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chakmanam tato navi jagupsate. 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhudvijanataha tatrako mohaka shoka ekatvam manupashyataha. Saparyaja trikram makayam avrinam ashnaviram shudam apapavidam kavir manishi paribu swayambur yatachititoridhan vyadadach chasvatibhya samabhyaha andham tama pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya eva te tamo yau vidyayam rataha. Anyadeva hur vidyaya, anyada hur vidyaya, iti shushuma dhiranam yenastad vichachakshire, vidyam cha yas tadviro bhayam saha, avidyayam rityum tirtva, vidyayam ritamashnute, andham tama pravishanti ye sambhutim upasate, tato bhuyaiva te tamo ya usambhutyam rataha. Anyadevahur sambhavat anyadahur sambhavat iti shushuma dhiranam yenastad vichachakshire sambhutim cha vinasham cha yastad vedo bhayam saha vinashenam rityum tirtva sambhutyam ritam ashnute haranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukam Tatvam pushana pavinu satya dharma yadrishtaye pushane karshayama suya prajapatya vyuharasmin samuha tejo Yate rupam kalyana tamam tate pashyami. Yosavaso purusha soham asmi. Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam shariram. Om Krato Smara Kritam Smara Krato Smara Kritam Smara Agninaya Supatare Asman Vishvani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yayodi Asmashtu Hurana Meno Bhuyishtam Te Nama Uktim Videma Om Purnam Madaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachate Purnasya Purnam Madaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So today we're on mantra 17. If you want, you can put the verse up so everyone can chant it. Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
edam basmantam shariram
Etedam bhasmantam shariram
om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato smara kritam smara
krato smara kritam smara
Krato smara kritam smara
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
edam basmantam shariram
Etedam bhasmantam shariram
om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato smara kritam smara
krato smara kritam smara
Krato smara kritam smara
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
edam basmantam shariram
Etedam bhasmantam shariram
om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato smara kritam smara
smara kritam smara.
Krato smara kritam smara
Anyone else chant?
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
atedham basmantam shariram
Etedam bhasmantam shariram
Om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato smara kritam smara
krato smara kritam smara
Krato smara kritam smara
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam
Vayuranilam
amritam
amritam
bhasmantam sariram
Etedam bhasmantam shariram
Om krato smara kritam smara
Om
Om
krato
krato
smara
smara
kritam
kritam smara
krato smara kritam smara
Krato
smara
smara
kritam
kritam
smara
smara Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
Atedam bhasmantam shariram
atedham basmantam shariram
Om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato smara kritam smara
Krato smara kritam smara
krato smara kritam smara
Anyone else?
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam
atedam basmantam shariram
atedham
Etedam
basmantam
bhasmantam
shariram
shariram
Om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato
krato
smara
smara
kritam smara
kritam smara
krato smara kritam smara
krato
Krato
smara
smara
kritam smara
kritam smara
Vayuranilam amritam
Vayuranilam amritam
atetam basmantam shariram
atedham
atedam
basmantam
basmantam
shariram
shariram
Om krato smara kritam smara
Om krato smara kritam
kritam
smara
smara
Krato smara kritam smara.
Krato smara kritam smara.
Vayur anilam amrutam
Vayuranilam amritam.
atedam bashmantam sariram.
Atedam basmantam shariram.
Om krato smara kratam smara.
Om
Om
krato
krato
smara
smara
kritam smara.
Krato smara kratam smara.
Krato smara kritam smara.
वायुरनिलम् अमृतम्
Vayuranilam amritam.
amritam.
अधीदं बाष्मान्तं शरीरम्
Atedam
Atedam
basmantam
bhajmantam
shariram.
shariram.
ॐ क्रतो स्मरा कृतं स्मरा
Om
Om
krato
krato
smara
smara
kritam
kritam
smara.
smara.
क्रतो स्मरा कृतं स्मरा
Krato smara
Smara
kritam
kritam
smara.
smara.
Okay, word for word. Vayu,
Vayu,
air of life.
air of life.
Anilam,
Anilam,
Nilam,
total reservoir of air.
total
total
reservoir of
reservoir of
air.
air.
Amritam,
Amritam,
indestructible.
indestructible.
Ata,
Atha,
Atha,
now.
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 Idam,
Idam,
this.
This.
Asmantam,
Vasmantam,
after being turned into
after being turned to ashes.
Sariram,
Shariram,
body.
body.
Oh,
Om,
oh Lord.
O Lord.
Prato,
Rato,
O enjoyer of all sacrifices.
enjoyer of all sacrifices.
Mara,
Mara,
please remember.
please remember. Pratam,
All that has been done by me.
all that has been done by me.
Mara,
Mara,
please remember.
please remember.
Krato,
Rato,
O supreme beneficiary.
O supreme beneficiary.
Mara,
Mara,
please remember.
please remember.
Pritam,
Kritam,
all that I have done for you.
all that I have done for you.
Mara,
Mara,
please remember.
please remember.
Translation. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. The temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. The Bhagavad Gita 2:20. Does anybody know that verse?
न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित्
Yes, very good. Continue.
न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूया अजो नित्य शाश्वतो अयं पुराणो हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे.
You know the English?
I think this verse says that there is no birth and there is no death for the soul. It has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. Nayam bhutva bhavita ajo nitya sashvatayam purano. So it is, I think it is eternal, and last line says, when the body destroys, the soul doesn't get destroyed.
Not slain, body is slain, right?
Yeah, onward.
Yeah, you just put it up. Very good. Bhagavad Gita 2:20 clearly says that after the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is the material dress that is formless and that takes a shape according to the form of the indestructible person. No living entity is originally formless, as is wrongly thought by those with a poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that the living entity exists after the annihilation of the material body. Someone else like to read?
In the material world, material nature displays wonderful workmanship by creating varieties of bodies for the living beings according to their propensities for sense gratification. The living entity who wants to taste stool is given a material body that is quite suitable for eating stool, that of a hog. Similarly, one who wants to eat the flesh and blood of other animals may be given a tiger's body equipped with suitable teeth and claws. But the human being is not meant for eating flesh, nor does he have any desire to taste stool, even in the most aboriginal state. Human teeth are so made that they can chew and cut fruit and vegetables, although there are two canine teeth so that primitive humans can eat flesh if they so desire.
But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity. Uh, they change according to the living entity's desire for sense gratification. In the cycle of evolution, the living entity changes bodies one after another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then he passed to vegetable life, from vegetable life to a worm life, from worm life to bird life, from bird life to animal life, and from animal life to the human form. The highest developed form is this human form when it is possessed of a full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. One should give up the material body, which is turned to ashes, and allow the air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living being's activities are performed within the body through the movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pranavayu. The yogis generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to rise from one circle of air to another until it rises to the Brahma Randra, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one material body and then enter into another. But the highest perfection of such changes occurs only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether, as suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere, where he can develop a completely different type of body, a spiritual body which never has to meet death or change.
Here in the material world, material nature forces a living entity to change body due to his different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in various species of life, from germs to the most perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and of the demigods. All of these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different shapes. The living entity, sorry, the intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the bodies but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is the same whether he is in a body of a hog or in the body of a demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to his pious and vicious activities. The human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to the Bhagavad Gita 7.19, the most perfect man surrenders onto the Lord after many, many lifetimes of culturing knowledge.
You know
The
that?
culture of knowledge.
Do you know that verse too?
Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyante vasudevam sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabham.
Right.
I think your daughter has your memory, huh?
No, Mataji, just little words I know. The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knowers come to the point of surrendering onto the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entity are eternal part and parcel of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahma Jyoti.
As we
Go ahead.
That's okay, Mataji. You can read.
As we have learned from previous mantras, the Brahma Jyotir emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks that are individual entities with the full senses of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses, and therefore they are placed in the material world to become false lords under the direction of the senses. The desire for lordship is the material disease of the living being, for under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates through the various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahma Jyoti does not represent mature nature. Only by surrendering unto the Lord completely and developing one's sense of spiritual service does one reach the highest perfectional stage.
In this mantra, the living entity's prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God after relishing his material body and material air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death, which full conscious of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performs during the existence of his material body, and consequently he gets another material body after death. The Bhagavad Gita 8.6 confirms this truth. Yam yam vapi smanam bhavatyajite ante kalevaram tam tam eva iti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits the body, O son of Kuti, that state he will attain without fail. Thus the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next life.
Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently, he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. The devotee, however, develop a sense of love for God. Godhead. By practicing devotional service to the Lord, even if at that time of death a devotee does not remember service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices. But even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotees.
Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with his devotees in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30-34. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly Because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary, miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained these verses in this way. One should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of the saints, even though such a devotee may seem to be Sudurachara, a person of loose character. One should try to understand the real purport of the word Sudurachara. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely for the maintenance of the body and again for self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all for the maintenance of the body. The self-realization part of one's activities is executed in one's occupation as a devotee of the Lord, and one performs action in that connection also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of his body. The proportion of activities for maintenance of the body decreases. However, in proportion to the increase in devotional service, as long as the proportion of devotional service does not come to the right point, there is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness. But it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long because, by the grace of the Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. Therefore, the path of devotional service is only the right path. If one is on the right path, even an occasional occurrence for worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization.
The facilities of devotional service are denied the impersonalists because they are attached to the Brahma Jyotir feature of the Lord, as suggested in the previous mantras. They cannot penetrate the Brahma Jyoti because they do not believe in the in the personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly word jugglery and mental speculation. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor, as confirmed in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 12.5.
All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities. 1. Hearing about the Lord. 2. Glorifying the Lord. 3. Remembering the Lord. 4. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord. 5. Worshipping the Lord. 6. Offering prayers to the Lord. 7. Serving the Lord. 8. Enjoying friendly association with the Lord. And 9. Surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with God. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for the devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting only one of these 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfection. 1. By hearing of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained the desired result. Just by glorifying the Lord, Sukadev Goswami, the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfection. By praying to the Lord, Akrura attained the desired result. By remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. By worshipping the Lord, Prithu Maharaj attained perfection. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi attained perfection. By rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. Through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. By surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaj Bali attained the desired result.
It's a long purport.
Actually, the explanation of the mantra and the practicality of all the mantras of the Vedic hymns is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra and properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the Vedic basic principle of the Vedic wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular mantra is explained in the questions and answers between Maharaja Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami at the very beginning of their meeting. Hearing and chanting of the science of God is the basic principle of devotional life. The complete Bhagavatam was heard by Maharaja Parikshit and chanted by Sukadeva Goswami. Maharaja Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, because Sukadeva Swami was a greater spiritual master than any great yogi or transcendentalist of his time. Maharaja Parikshit's main question was, that's the next paragraph, sorry.
Maharaj Parikshit's main question was, what is the duty of every man, specifically at the time of death? Shukadev Goswami answered, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavanishwaro Hare Ashrotavya Kirtavayascha Smaratavyaschetatabayam. Everyone who desires to be free from all anxiety should always hear about glorifying and remembering the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties, and the super soul of all living entities. Bhagavatam 2.1.5. So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex during the daytime, in earning as much money as possible, or else in the shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, primarily by declaring him to be impersonal, that is, without sense perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is a sentient being and is supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical with himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of the worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in godly activities without wasting a second. Sri Isopnisad directs us towards such godly activities.
Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death? When the body is dislocated, and how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death. Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam sariram om kritosmara kritam smara kritosmara kritam smara. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So this is a very important verse for us. Bhumirapo nalovayor kamano buddharevacha hankara iti ame vinapakritirashtata. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So Vayu, you could put all the gallery up. It's distracting to just look at me there. You can look at everybody. Altogether, these constitute my separated material energies. So Vayu is material, mentioned here in this verse. Krishna is telling Arjuna, our physical bodies are made of a combination of these different, the first 5 of these elements that are discussed in that verse. And the second 3 make up our subtle body. And this Vayu, Pranavayu, helps the functions of the body. There's the Tri Dhatu, Kapha, Pitta, Vata, or Vayu. And when these are out of balance, then there's disease. In personalists, they may take, in this mantra, they may take the Vayu, let the air be merged with the totality of air. They may take this to mean that we are this air. And then when the body is finished, the air merges with the great reservoir of air. But like when they have the example of like, we are like the pot with the air in the pot. And when the pot breaks, the air will merge with the reservoir of air. But apariyam, the next verse in the Bhagavad Gita, apariyam mitastvanyam prakritim vidime param jivabhutam mahabaho yayeram daryate jagat. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjun, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material, impure nature. We are Jiva souls. We are individual spiritual sparks eternally. This body is not keeping us separate. We are eternally individual. As the Bhagavad Gita also says, and it's mentioned in this purport, Natvaevaham jatunasam natvam neme janaripa nachaiva nabhavishyama sarve vayamata param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. It's not the soul that merges with the elements, the reservoir of the rest of the elements, but actually it's the body, which is made of these elements. When it's finished, then it merges with the rest of the elements, just like it mentions in here that after the body is burnt, it turns into ashes. And so the ashes again go to the earth, or when the body is buried, it will turn to earth and it will merge with the earth. Sometimes I've heard in some cultures, they put the body out to be eaten by animals, and then it will become stool and then merge. So it's not the soul that merges, but the Vedic way is to burn the body, except for the great acharyas or sannyasis, then their body is generally buried. But this mantra is a very good example of how to leave this world. Our goal is Ante Narayana Smriti, is to remember the Lord at the end of our life. And there's an art to dying. In chapter 8, attaining, the name of the chapter is Attaining the Supreme. Many of the verses in there are giving us advice on the end of our life, how to attain the Supreme. He mentions in here, I think number 5 or 6, yeah. Antakale chamameva smaran muktva palkalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. And yam yam bapi smaran bhavan tyajiti ante kalevaram tam tameva tikonteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, as O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. And in the very next verse, 8:7, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudyacha mayar pita manho budir mami vaishasya samshayaha. Krishna explains how to attain him. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So this thinking of Krishna And it is most easily done in this age by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This will free us from material contamination and engage our mind and senses, our mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt, Srila Prabhupada says in that purport. There's many times in chapter 8 where Prabhupada mentions the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for attaining the supreme. He says that without a doubt, if we chant Hare Krishna at the end of this life, we will attain Krishna Loka. Especially in this age of Kali, the Maha Mantra is the best way and the prescribed method for purifying our existence and for remembering Krishna, because Krishna is non-different than his holy names. So we should practice this chanting and remembering Krishna even in difficult situations, which there's so many inconveniences in our lives. This mantra and purport is very important, I feel, for showing us the art or the process of leaving the world, where the devotee asks the Lord to remember his sacrifices, because the process of success and remembering the Lord actually generally involves some sacrifice. Or like Prabhupada says in here, sacrifice means denying the senses and engaging them in Krishna's service. And he mentions the 9 processes of engagement for our senses in Krishna's service, which we mentioned in a different mantra earlier, and who attain perfection by following that, like hearing, chanting, remembering, serving. So we won't go over those. We don't have much time. I'm trying to hurry. At the end, it's going to be most difficult for us to, remember Krishna. Srila Prabhupada would often recite the verse by King Kulashekar from the Mukunda Mala Stotra, a very famous verse. Krishna Tvadiya Parapankaja Pancharantam Adyaiva me Vishatumam Manasaraja Hamsaha Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavata Pitai Kanta Varodana Vidho Smarnam Kutaste. O Lord Krishna, at this moment, let the royal swan of my mind enter the tangled stems of the lotus feet, of the lotus of your lotus feet. How will it be possible for me to remember you at the time of death, when my throat will be choked up with mucus, bile, and air? It's that kapha, pitta, and vata. And death is actually the ultimate imbalance for the body. And our entire life is meant for this preparation for the end of our life. It's a preparation for our next life. All our accumulated thoughts influence our mind at the end. So we're preparing now, and it's better late than never, but it would be best if the children can prepare. I mean, if we start young, like Prahlad Maharaj advises, Komara Achared Pragyo Dharmam Bhagavataniha. One who has sufficient intelligence should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, because it'll be easier to remember Krishna the more practice we have. Death is like our final exam. The more we prepare, the better we will be in our final performance. It's not like we can... Generally, when you cram for an exam, you don't do as well as those who prepare, some time ahead of time. It's good to us to become accustomed to a little hardship in our life and practice chanting when we're in these situations. The more we practice, the more prepared we will be to leave this world at that time. We have the examples of so many exalted Vaishnavas who, at the end of their life, were able to focus their minds on the Lord. Of course, Bhishma comes to mind. He's a famous example. He's on the bed of arrows, and he's able to fix his mind on the Lord. Parikit Maharaj, who Prabhupada mentions here, Parikit Maharaj, he was cursed to die in 7 days, and he renounced his kingdom, he renounced everything, and went and listened to Shukadev Goswami. There's Maharaj Katbanga, who pleased the demigods by fighting for them. And so they offered him a boon. And instead of asking for something material, Maharaj Katbanga, he inquired about the length of his life. And they told him, Maharaj Katbanga, and he inquired about the duration of his life, and they told him that he had 1 moment left. So he immediately freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And then, of course, there's the glorious Haridas Thakur. The picture was just before. Haridas Thakur was actually born in a Muslim family, but he took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and of the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He's so gloriously well known for his chanting that in our Prema Dhwani prayers we say Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. He would chant 192 rounds a day, I believe. And he was so humble, he would stay some distance from the Jagannath temple in Puri and offer his obeisances to the chakra on top. And every day, Lord Chaitanya would arrange for prasadam to be brought to him. One day, Lord Chaitanya's personal servant, Govinda Das, went to bring the Jagannath prasadam to Haridas Thakur. And when he went there, Haridas Thakur was lying on his back and chanting very slowly. And he asked him, he requested him to take the Mahaprasadam. And Haridas Thakur said, today I will fast. And he said, I have not finished my regular number of rounds. How can I eat? But you have brought Mahaprasadam, so how can I neglect it? And so he offered some prayers and he took a small portion of the Mahaprasadam. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself came, and Haridas Thakur paid his obeisances, and Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas about his condition. And Haridas Thakur said, my body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are not well. And Mahaprabhu asked him, can you ascertain the cause? What is causing this? What your disease is? And Haridas Thakur repeated what he said earlier, that he was not able to finish his number of rounds that he was committed to. And the Lord replied that, Haridas, you're old now. You can reduce the number of rounds you're chanting. You're already liberated, and therefore you don't need to follow these regulative principles so strictly. And besides that, you fulfill the purpose of your incarnation, which is preaching the glories of the holy name around the world, or in the world. Haridas Thakur, he proceeded to glorify Lord Chaitanya, and then he revealed his heart's desire that he not be present when the Lord performs his Anchalila, his final pastimes. He wanted to leave this world before that. And Lord Chaitanya replied that Krishna will definitely fulfill all your desires. And Haridas Thakur said that he wanted to leave this world while holding the Lord's lotus feet to his heart, and with his eyes look upon the moon-like face of the Lord while chanting Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said that Krishna will execute your desire, but what about me? He said, whatever happiness is mine is due to your associations. So it's not fitting for you to leave me here behind. And Haridas Thakur, he's so dear to Lord Chaitanya that Lord Chaitanya embraced Haridas Thakur, and then he left and to take his bath in the sea and perform his noontime duties. But the next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came again to see Haridas with some devotees. And at that time, Mahaprabhu asked Haridas, do you have any news for me? And Haridas Thakur said, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me, my Lord. And Lord Chaitanya, he had the devotees start a big kirtan for some time, and he began praising Haridas Thakur before the devotees, who all paid their obeisances to Haridas. And then Haridas Thakur brought the Lord, made the Lord sit in front of him, and he fixed his two eyes on the lotus face of the Lord like two bumblebees, it said. He fixed them on the Lord's lotus face. And he held the Lord's lotus feet to his heart, and he began chanting, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And it mentions in there that he also took the dust from the lotus feet of all the assembled devotees and put it on his head. And while chanting Shri Krishna Chaitanya again and again with ecstatic tears running down his face, Haridas Thakur gave up his body. And Lord Chaitanya, he lifted Haridas Thakur's body up, and the devotees were having kirtan, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu held Haridas Thakur's body in the kirtan and danced with it. And with his own hands, he led the procession of the devotees to the sea with Haridas Thakur on some platform. And with his own hands, he bathed Haridas Thakur's body in the sea, and then he also buried, put the sand on Haridas Thakur's body. They built some platform with a fence around, and devotees can go visit there now. And near the Jagannath temple, not so far, there's Haridas Thakur's samadhi. But Srila Prabhupada proclaimed that sea, that so many great personalities have bathed in that sea, that it's now become a great Charnamrita bowl. And even Lord Chaitanya, he declared from this day on that this, he said that this day on, this spot has become a great pilgrimage site because of Haridas Thakur. He's such a great personality. Of course, we have the example of our own Srila Prabhupada. You saw the picture before. It's a little out of order. But Srila Prabhupada, his life, everything about Prabhupada was glorious. His birth was glorious. His life was glorious. His passing from this world was glorious. Everything he did was glorious. Even at the end, you see him on his deathbed. He knew he was going to leave this world. And so he went to Vrindavan and he prepared for it. And yet there on his deathbed, he's still thinking of the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's, you see Jayadvaita Swami holding the dictaphone. He's still focused on the instruction of his spiritual master to preach this message to the English-speaking world.
Is that other person Giriraj Maharaj?
No.
No.
You see the white cloth? It's like he's translating the Srimad Bhagavatam there, even on his deathbed. When it was just all skin and bones, the doctor even said a normal man would be screaming in pain in Prabhupada's condition. He hadn't eaten for months. It's so transcendental. But the devotees had continuous kirtan, and with his last breath, he said, Krishna, and left this world. So these great acharyas, great Vaishnavas, saints, they're wonderful examples for us to remember on how we live and leave this world. I know there isn't much time for questions. There's a lot to cover in this report that we didn't get to. But I think this is one of the main points, was that in order to leave this world Krishna conscious, we actually have to practice Krishna consciousness. It's like the final exam. The more we practice, the better we'll do. Are there any comments, questions, corrections? Oh.
Hare Krishna, Jiva Mataji, Dandot Pranam.
Bravo.
Mataji, can you please elaborate a little bit on the translation where it says that please remember all my sacrifices?
Well, throughout our life, there's many types of sacrifices. There are yagyas that one performs, but also devotional service is considered a sacrifice. In the purport, Prabhupada or he mentions how sacrifice means denying. I'm looking for that sentence.
And Sankirtana Yajna also, right? Or chanting.
Yes, in this age, that's the recommended yagya. Even in Bhagavad Gita, yagyanam japa yagyosmi, chanting of the holy names, of sacrifices and the chanting of the holy names. It's any work done for Krishna. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds us to this material world. Whatever we do for Krishna, we sacrifice acting for ourself or extended self, and we act for Krishna. That's a sacrifice. We sacrifice our time, we sacrifice our energy, we sacrifice the results of our activities, we sacrifice the activity itself. I don't know specifically the exact sacrifice he's speaking of, but just the fact that Srila Prabhupada mentions that, like denying the senses. Oh, no, is that it? Long purport.
Mataji, it's in the end of it's the last paragraph.
Last paragraph?
Yeah. Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses.
Yeah, sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. So the interest of the senses is sense gratification. So you deny that and you offer, instead of, are you saying like practically now, or the sacrifices that he did specifically?
Mata, here I understood the point that you are trying to make. Sacrifices means denying, as it was mentioned in the end. But for us as a devotee, sacrifices whatever personal level, whatever devotion that we have done. So that part we can denote this as a sacrifice. But is it like, please remember all my sacrifices? Don't you think that that becomes like a karma kanda, Mataji? Like we are reminding Lord that please remember all my sacrifices, whereas he already knows. So how do we take this, this remember word? Because it has been used twice in that, in this verse, Mataji. 2 times, smara is been said. So I mean, if in any verse or Sanskrit verse something which is twice or thrice emphasis is given, that means something.
Yeah. I mean, he knows that the Lord knows, because in the next one he says, you know all that I have done in the past. So please free me from the reactions to my past sins.
Okay.
As a personalist, sometimes you pray to the Lord as a person. You know, we are personalists, we're not impersonalists. So we ask the Lord, if you so desire, you know, the Lord knows our heart, yet we say, if you so desire, do this or that, you know, we pray our prayer. Lord, please now, oh my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. Well, because he's at the end, you're in a desperate situation, so you're crying out, you're revealing your heart. It's up to you. Remember my sacrifices, all I've done. It's up to you.
Okay, okay. Got it, Mataji.
Take this into consideration.
Okay, okay, that way.
I have to think about it more.
I think it's a begging or a plea, right, Marji? At the time of death, you just beg the Lord, please remember me, you know, somehow consider me, you know, don't fail me, give me a pass on this exam.
Yeah, it's kind of in a desperate situation. I'm yours.
I mean, after all, who else can we ask for? We have to ask Krishna only to help us.
Yes, Mataji, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only sacrifice that Srila Prabhupada mentions in this purport, other than performing devotional service, you know, Sankirtan Yagya, but also Sankirtan Yagya means glorifying the Lord. So anytime we're glorifying the Lord, it is a type of sacrifice. Whether we're hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, worshiping, serving, surrendering everything. The ninth dasa, it's sacrifice.
And doing Ekadasi Vrata is a sacrifice too, right, Marji?
Yes, and distributing books is a sacrifice. You're sacrificing, you know, normally maybe something else. So you're talking about Krishna. Maybe you'd be going somewhere else, you go shopping, but instead you go out and distribute books. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to the material world. Therefore, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction. And that way you will be free from bondage. Is that the rest?
Okay.
In every age, there's some sort of sacrifice. I don't know the specific sacrifice. This is Swayambhuva Manu. What age, what period of time?
I think it was first Manu, isn't it, Mataji? It was the first Manu, like we are in the 7th. I think he was the first.
So
Manvanta.
So is that Satya Yuga you're saying?
Maybe Mataji, but we are in 7th. I think Swayambhuva was the first Manvantar.
If it's Satya Yuga, then the sacrifice for that age is meditating. If not, then it's fire yagyas or deity worship or Sankirtan yagya. The sacrifices are best learned when started when we're young. Austerity. It's much easier to perform when you're young, and then leaves the impressions on your mind. We're easier to remember when we're older. It becomes like second nature if you start young. But better late than never. If we practice as much as we can now, we have a chance, and it says that Krishna will help us. If we can't remember the Lord, then he will help us to remember him. So that was mantra 17. It's 8:08. So if there's no other reflections or comments.
It's very scary, Mataji, to ask the Lord to remember the sacrifice, because someone like me has done no sacrifice, so I can just pray to the Lord, please give me a pass anyway. Even if I'm not deserving, just give me a mercy pass, And just the prayers of the devotees and the blessings of the Vaishnavas is what I depend on, because I've really not done, and I'm honestly saying this, with great honesty. I've fallen down many times. I've done a lot of mistakes. I haven't really done anything for the Lord, really nothing. I haven't sacrificed a lot. So, and all the examples that you gave us, such exalted Vaishnavas, Prabhupada, of course, is, wonderful and a great Acharya, but all these Parikshit Maharaj and Bhishma and Maharaja Katpanga, where are they? And where is, lowly person like me, someone who's not even an ordinary devotee. Even an ordinary devotee is very, very exalted, So I'm just like a Brahma Bandhu. They say the devotee Bandhu. I'm a devotee Bandhu. Someone who is associated with the devotees, but really not a devotee myself. So I don't know where I stand. So please pray. That's all I can say, and give me your blessings.
What about all the japa you chanted? What about all those books you've distributed? What about all that service in the kitchen?
Not Mataji, very minuscule and always in conjunction with other devotees. I'm really not the primary person. It's probably Ganpati Govinda, Rasraj Prabhu, or Ragasindhu Prabhu, or whoever else is
You
in
made
charge.
so many Tulsi skirts, remember?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, Maltipri. I'm really, really scared. I just want the prayers and blessings of the Vaishnavas. Now that I'm approaching the twilight of my life, I'm an older person, so I've lived more than 2/3 of my life. So there's probably very little left. So please pray for me and keep me in your prayers and take me in your association. That's all I can say. I can't ask the Lord in real honesty. I can't say, remember what I've done for you, because I've done nothing. And that's the honest truth. This is not a humility, or this is not just saying it. This is the 100% honest truth.
Maji, what's all the trays of nuts and the mixed fruits that you distribute during Rath Yatra? You cook for Rath Yatra all overnight. Nobody does that at your age. I can't cook like that. You've done so much.
You're forgetting that you have been constantly every week making a fruit salad in the old temple and serving every week.
What is that, Mataji? Those are like.
No, it is service, Mataji.
I don't even want to.
Service is not a big or small. It is the mood of your service, your sincerity. You have done so much.
Anyway, I don't want to go into make this class about me, but I'm honestly scared. So please pray for me. That's all I'm saying. Okay, thank you.
But you cannot say you didn't do anything. We won't agree with you.
Sorry, Mataji, if I cut off.
Okay, that's all right. I'm sorry too. I'm sorry I made this about me, but I'm scared. That's all I want to say.
I'm just thinking, so should we pray to the Lord, please forget all that I have done for you and pretend that I've done something?
Mataji, I can just say, even though I've done nothing for you, just give me a mercy pass, just out of your kindness and your causeless mercy. Just
that's how we feel. That we haven't done anything, which, relatively depends what you compare it with. That's how the devotee feels, and haven't done anything worthwhile. But the Lord is so kind; He keeps us here. He doesn't kick us away.
Yes, Mataji.
Jiva
Thank
Mataji,
you so much for a wonderful class.
Yeah. Wonderful class, Jiva Mataji. Really liked your class.
Somebody wanted to say something.
Yeah, Jiva Mataji, I just want to say something to Sudevi Priya Mataji with your permission. Sudevi Priya Mataji, like the realization that you are having that you have not done enough, that itself is only because the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And personally, I have been with you in distributing books, and you have been, tirelessly, coming and distributing so many books. The only thing that will help, every one of us at the last stage is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. That is the only thing, Mataji. As long as you are close with, you are reading Srila Prabhupada's book, or just even holding Srila Prabhupada's book, that has enough potency to, to kill all your fears. So just take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. That is the only way out. And as devotees, like as your friends, we all are with you, Mataji. Never ever fear, because Srila Prabhupada is with you, and you have done enough service. Just touching Srila Prabhupada's book itself is so potent. And my personal, whatever time I have spent with my mother, I'm 100% confident. I can tell you that if you just just hold Srila Prabhupada books, all your fears will be gone, and practically no one else will be able to help you except Srila Prabhupada. Just take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, your fear will be gone, Mataji. Thank you.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna says, Ma Suchaha.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we will leave.
Thank you for the nice class, Mataji.
Thank you.
Very nice class,
Very nice
Mataji.
class, Mataji.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhu.
Kripasindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Bhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavruta ki jai.
Jai.
His Grace, Her Grace, Mother Jiva.
Yo Mataji.
Sudevi
Jai.
Priya Mataji ki jai.
Jai.
On, oh my God.
Malti Priya Mataji ki jai.
Haribol.
Everyone ki jai. No man left behind, right? Isn't that what the militaries?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you for the wonderful class.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being there, for commenting.